Welcome back to Kleppers Corner. Today in the news, where we peel back the layers of global chaos and find out that underneath it all, it's just more chaos, but slightly warmer and wearing a MAGA hat. Today we've got Trump tariffs, Israeli tanks, government day trading in Intel stock, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. turning med school into a kale smoothie bar, and Indiana politics proving that gerrymandering is the Hoosier State's real national pastime. Let's dig in. Segment 1. The U.S. slaps India with a 50% tariff. At 12:01 a.m., America smacked India with a 50% tariff. That's right, half off, but in reverse. The Trump administration justified it by saying India is still buying cheap Russian oil, so this is basically a geopolitical version of if you're friends with him, you can't sit at my lunch table. India, naturally, is furious. Their foreign minister pointed out the U.S. still buys Russian energy, too. And he's right. It's like Trump grounding India for sneaking cookies while he's sitting there with Oreos on his tie. The sector's hardest hit? Textiles, jewelry, shrimp. Nothing says tough on national security like making sure American consumers can't buy affordable throw pillows or gold bangles. And shrimp? Really? Somewhere, Bubba Gump is crying. Economists say India could lose nearly half its U.S. exports. Trump, meanwhile, called it a beautiful tax and promised Americans that higher prices on carpets and seafood are a very small price to pay for freedom, which is not the slogan you want to hear at Red Lobster. Here's the kicker. Instead of breaking India away from Russia, this might push India closer to Russia and China. That's right. Trump meant to punish India, but he may have just invented BRICS Plus, the sequel nobody asked for. It's like telling your kid not to hang out with the bad crowd and then grounding them so hard they move in with the bad crowd permanently. Segment 2. Israel escalates Gaza City offensive. In the Middle East, Israel is gearing up for a full-scale offensive on Gaza City. Officials are calling evacuation inevitable, which in diplomatic terms translates to, yeah, we're going in. 60,000 new reservists are on call, and drone strikes have turned the skyline into the world's least fun fireworks show. Meanwhile, the UN just declared a famine in Gaza. That's not just a tragedy, it's a diplomatic nuke. The official statement blames Israel for systematic obstruction of aid. Translation: not just people starving, but an international legal case file being preheated at The Hague. Trump, in his infinite wisdom, is cooking up a post-war plan for Gaza, which last time included, checks notes, turning it into beachfront condos. Because when you think centuries of bloodshed, you definitely think all-inclusive resort with a lazy river. Netanyahu loved it. Europe, not so much. The real divergence, the U.S. is talking about the day after, while Israel is doubling down on the day before. It's like one guy at the wedding planning honeymoon while the other's still deciding which cousin to fistfight during the reception. And caught in the middle, nearly 1 million starving people. Segment 3. Uncle Sam buys Intel stock. Back home, the Trump administration just bought a 10% stake in Intel. Yes, the U.S. government is now a shareholder. Forget Social Security. Your retirement fund is now tied to whether Intel can sell enough chips to power your toaster. The money came from CHIPS Act grants. Basically, the government turned a bailout into a stock buy. Trump called it a deal so good, even Warren Buffett's jealous. Rand Paul called it socialism. And Bernie Sanders said, "For once, I agree with Rand Paul, but in a fun way." Intel stock jumped 5%. Great for Wall Street, but here's the weird part. Foreign buyers might now avoid Intel chips because they don't want to deal with Uncle Sam as their supplier. Nothing makes customers more nervous than knowing the U.S. government could technically show up at your IT department saying, "Nice motherboard. Be a shame if something sanctioned it." This is a whole new template. Government as day trader. What's next? The Pentagon buying GameStop shares because it's strategically important for morale. Honestly, don't give them ideas. Segment 4. RFK Jr. and the Kale curriculum. Next, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. rolled out a sweeping reform, mandatory nutrition education for every medical school. Doctors will finally learn what kale is beyond that green stuff they push to the side at Chipotle. The administration's logic: 1 million Americans die annually from diet-related illness, and yet med students get less nutrition training than Gordon Ramsay gives in a TikTok. Only 14% of residency programs even require nutrition. Imagine going to a doctor who can't tell you the difference between a carb and a Carvel ice cream cake. Schools have until September 10th to submit compliance plans. Yes, September 10th. Nothing screams government efficiency like giving med schools 2 weeks to rewrite the entire curriculum. Somewhere in Harvard Med, a dean just screamed into a quinoa salad. Critics say this is an attack on Big Pharma because healthier diets mean fewer pills. RFK Jr. says it's about saving lives. Either way, the next time you go to the doctor with chest pain, don't be surprised if they prescribe a sweet potato. Segment 5, Trump's new crime bill. Trump's also cooking up a new comprehensive crime bill. He teased it on Truth Social, saying it's what our country needs and now, which is exactly what people shout before they eat gas station sushi. This follows his federal takeover of D.C.'s police force. Yes, the president basically said, these are my cops now. Polls show most Americans are worried about crime, but only a third support federalizing city police. Which makes sense, because if there's one thing Americans hate more than crime, it's the government actually showing up in their neighborhood. Critics say it's unconstitutional overreach. Supporters say it's tough love. Either way, the federal government is about to start playing Sim City, but with real tanks. Segment 6, Indiana's gerrymandering drama. In Indiana, Republicans are pushing for mid-decade redistricting. That's right, not after a census, just because. State Rep Andrew Ireland argued Democrats, quote, have no business representing us, which is basically saying elections are fair except for when the other guy wins. Opponents call it voter suppression, especially for black communities in Indianapolis. Protesters packed the State House chanting, focus on energy costs, not erasing districts, which is the Midwest polite way of saying we're mad. Polls show 52% of Hoosiers oppose the redraw, which makes sense. Nobody likes when the refs change the rules halfway through the game. Unless, of course, you're the team writing the new rule book. Segment 7, asteroid flyby and science news. Don't panic, but today a 190-foot asteroid buzzed by Earth at 2.3 million miles away. Astronomers call that close. Regular people call that so far you'd need 3 layovers to get there. NASA confirmed no threat. Still, if you're having a bad day, just remember, statistically, you were almost killed by space today. Meanwhile, science marches on. Purdue researchers made a breakthrough in quantum sensing, basically creating the world's tiniest MRI machine. And Brookhaven Lab designed new particle detectors for its collider, which are like high-speed GoPros for atoms. That's right, America's best science is either saving the world from asteroids or inventing quantum cameras for subatomic selfies. Segment 8, markets, inflation, and Indiana sports. The markets closed up yesterday. Dow, S&P, NASDAQ, all modest gains. Nvidia rose 1.1% because AI is still the market's sugar daddy. Meanwhile, consumer confidence fell again with inflation expectations rising. Translation, Wall Street's happy, Main Street's nervous, and your wallet's still crying in the corner. And in Indiana sports, the Colts finalized their 53-man roster, which sounds like good news until you realize Julius Brents got cut, and now we're down to cheering for practice squad hopefuls. Over in basketball, Tyrese Halliburton revealed he almost walked into WWE SummerSlam with John Cena and the championship trophy before tearing his Achilles. That's right, Indiana went from NBA champion with Cena entrance to Cena using his crutch as a weapon. Only in Indiana can basketball injuries literally fuel wrestling storylines. In conclusion, so that's August 27, 2025. Tariffs turning trade partners into frenemies, Gaza teetering on the brink, Washington playing stockbroker with Intel, and RFK Jr. making doctors memorize recipes. Add in a looming crime bill, Indiana's democracy by Etch-a-Sketch, a near-miss asteroid, and the Colts fumbling their roster, and you've got a world both on fire and somehow still checking its Robinhood app. History doesn't repeat itself, folks, but it does rhyme. And today it rhymes with chaos.